sign of things to come. What we need to do now is get focused and stop pointing fingers. You're a problem. You're a real problem.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to this week's installment on The Lake Show, and I really appreciate you all making me a part of your day again. So last week, I went over a small preview before Super Bowl 59 between the Eagles and the Chiefs, and I weighed my thoughts and opinions on the blatant ref ball that's been happening in the NFL, especially when it comes to the Chiefs games, but that's neither here nor there. So today, we're going to do sort of the same thing. I'm going to go into a more in-depth analysis before Super Bowl 59, set to take place February 9th. And we got some NBA news we got to cover first because, well, one, I don't really cover much NBA. I don't really talk much NBA, but with football season winding down, I'm going to have to start talking a little bit of NBA. And what better way to go about it than talking about the Luka Doncic trade. And I woke up Sunday morning this past weekend and I thought this was a joke. I see fake accounts and just people on the internet post fake news all the time when it comes to sports deals and what athletes say or claim to do or anything or trades regarding anything. There's always a bunch of gag accounts that, you know, mislead you into believing something's not true. Well, yeah. The Luka Doncic trade was real. 100% real and probably the most shocking trade in NBA history. So we're going to go over all of that today. And as you all know, I'm a Bucked Up ambassador, so use promo code SHOW32. Get yourself 20% off any and all pre-workout orders at buckedup.com. So let's talk about it. At the 11th hour on Saturday night, this past Saturday, we saw the Dallas Mavericks reach out to the Los Angeles Lakers and offer them Luka Doncic. Now, for anybody who watches NBA, and even the seldom times that I do, because I'm just not really all that big into the NBA, I'll watch here and there. I get mainly invested when it comes to playoff time, but we got to talk about this first. First of all, this is the most shocking trade in NBA history. Now, I'm going to get the conspiracy theory part out of the way that the NBA ratings are in the toilet, so Adam Silver behind the scenes kind of orchestrated this, I guess, to happen, force one of the top notable stars in the NBA to a big town market like Los Angeles. And Dallas is a big market too, but so we'll get the conspiracy theories out of the way, that this is just a blatant chance to, you know, boost NBA ratings for the future to come. And I can possibly see that. I don't really care that much. But in regards to the trade itself, this is a terrible trade. Anybody and their mother who watches NBA, who is any affiliation with NBA, or just loves the sport in general, knows you don't make a trade like this. This makes literally zero sense. So there's going to be a lot of talk about who won this trade, who lost this trade. I'll go out and say that if neither of these teams win a championship within 3 to 5 years, then it was a blatant fail for both parties. But I think the Lakers won for the long term, lost for the short term, and I think Dallas kind of won for the short term, lost for the long term in the respective franchises. So let's go over the Lakers. So what do they get? Well, they get Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris. Okay. And the Dallas Mavericks get Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. That's a first-round pick 4 years down the road. So let's get that out of the way. Now, let's see. Here's why I'm puzzled about this move, but also kind of not. So LeBron obviously is still in LA. He's a ball-centric guard. For the Lakers offense to have any power to it whatsoever, LeBron has to be the main ball handler. That's just the reality of it. Like, the Lakers' backcourt is not that great. The Lakers in general, they're not that great. Now they're doing okay. They'll be in the play-in game year in, year out, and then they'll get bounced first round. That's typically what the Lakers have been doing ever since the bubble, where they won the championship with Anthony Davis. So now you got Luka Doncic comes in. Maxi Kleber's okay. Markieff Morris is okay. Markieff is a little up there in age, but, those two players, they're role players. But Luka's the main course. So when you look at this, you have LeBron James, who's a ball-centric guard who needs the ball in his hands. And now you got Luka, another ball-centric guard who needs the ball in his hands. And you gave away your one and only rim protector, Anthony Davis. What sense does that make? It makes zero sense. I saw a team with two ball-centric guards on it before. That was called the Houston Rockets with James Harden and Russell Westbrook. That was in the bubble. Now, I paid attention to the NBA way more than I do now back then because obviously it was during COVID and we had nothing to watch. And the bubble NBA playoffs and the finals and the bubble, that was literally like peak basketball, just minus the crowd. It was so unbelievable. That was a fun time. But looking at it for the Lakers' perspective, yeah, you got your star for the future going forward, which is why I think the Lakers in the years to come, after LeBron's gone, maybe Bronny's still on the team, maybe not. He stinks as an NBA player. He's not ready yet. He should be staying in the G League. But the Lakers long term, yeah, they have their guy. They have their next superstar, Luka. I'm willing to bet Luka does win a championship eventually, especially now in Los Angeles. That's just going to be a free agent, destination for everybody who enters free agency. Now, looking at it from Dallas's perspective, now there were some out-of-shape concerns, conditioning concerns, availability concerns for Luka. But at the same time, Luka is your best player, no matter what. Now that you traded him, Luka's no longer available for the Supermax extension since he'd been traded. And I guess the GM for the Mavericks was looking at that okay, and here's the reality of Luka. He's injury prone. I guess conditioning, there are conditioning issues. He hasn't played since Christmas. It's been well over a month since Christmas. So Luka hasn't played since then. Do you really want to offer a Supermax deal to someone who can't stay healthy, is always showing up out of shape? It's like the Zion Williamson situation in New Orleans. That's a different situation. Zion could turn the Pelicans around instantly if he actually gave it his all, rather than eat the gumbo down there in New Orleans every single week. But looking at it for the Mavericks' perspective, they have a big now. And I hate the people out there that are downsizing Anthony Davis a little bit. Anthony Davis is still an all-pro player. One of the top 10 players in the NBA. Probably the best big man in the NBA, who has terrific offense, but outstanding defense. So that's another thing for the Lakers. You have no big anymore. You were bad on defense already, the Lakers. You were already terrible on defense, with the one bright spot being Anthony Davis because he's your only good rim protector. Now he's gone. This is going to be generational, terrible defense from the Lakers from here on out for the rest of the season. They're not going to be able to stop a nosebleed without Anthony Davis. Now, Anthony Davis has been talking, all they needed was a 5. All they needed was a big man. Then they could be viable. That's what Anthony Davis was saying. So he could play his natural position at the 4. And when the Lakers won the championship in the bubble, that's exactly what Anthony Davis played. He played the 4. Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee played the 5. And they were dang good at it. They were really, really good at it. I keep telling people that Lakers team back in 2020 would have won the title regardless. COVID or not, that team would have won the title. That team was the perfect mix of prime. LeBron was getting out of his prime, but he was still probably the best player in the league. You have Anthony Davis, who was healthy and just a monster on the offense and defensive side of the ball. You had Rajon Rondo, Alex Caruso, KCP, Danny Green, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. Like, you had the perfect mix between young talent, Kyle Kuzma, young talent, and old vets who knew how to play the game and who have been in the championship spotlight. That's what I think made the Lakers so effective back in 2020. But Lakers since then, you let Caruso walk, you let KCP walk, Danny Green walk, Rajon Rondo retired, Dwight Howard retired, JaVale McGee walk. You still had Anthony Davis and LeBron, but there was basically nothing else over the past couple years. I talked about it last year that D'Angelo Russell was so hit and miss. The Russell Westbrook trade, I thought that trade was god-awful. This trade is bad for the Lakers, and like at least for the Lakers short term, but this is terrible for the Mavericks in general. You don't give up your superstar generational talent player. Luka is going to go down as probably one of the top 2 or 3 point scorers in NBA history. That's how good he is. And even then, when he did show up out of shape, when he was unconditioned, and when he was sort of brittle and injured, this dude can still drop 50 and 20 on you. This dude is still one of the perennial offensive players in the entire league. So, realistically, this trade should never have happened. It's actually disgusting. And now so looking at the Dallas Mavericks going forward, can they still be viable for a championship? I mean, yeah, if everybody stays healthy, if Kyrie is interested. I heard rumors that Kyrie Irving wants out now that Luka was traded. So, I guess you're out of luck at that point if Kyrie decides not to play. But they did give up 91 points in the first half to the Cavaliers the other night. Great start to the post-Luka era for Dallas right now. And just looking at it as a whole, I think if, let's say, all the pieces lined up for Kyrie Irving to continue playing for the Mavericks and everybody was healthy on that Mavericks, you got Derek Lively at the 5, you got Anthony Davis at the 4, Kyrie at the 1, and then you have Klay Thompson in the mix. I forget who their number 2 is, but either way, you're looking at it going forward. This Mavericks team could still technically compete for the West. Do I think it's as good as what Luka and Kyrie could do? No, but they will be better defensively. That's for sure. Anthony Davis is far from a scrub. He's he's probably the top big man in the NBA. The fact that this man does not have a defensive player of the year award is actually criminal. The fact that Joel Embiid has an MVP over Anthony Davis. Now, I'm not saying Anthony Davis is an MVP, but Joel Embiid is far from one. Joel Embiid doesn't even like playing back-to-back games anymore. Anthony Davis, at least, now people are comparing the injury histories between Anthony Davis and Luka, and I get it because Anthony Davis is 6 years older than Luka. I get that, but Anthony Davis has pretty much been healthy all last year and dang near all of this year. Like, he's in pretty good shape. Like, it's not like he's super, super brittle like he was when he was on the Pelicans and the early portions of his Lakers career. But just overall, this is the most shocking deal I think I have ever seen. Dallas Mavericks, I do not know what they were on when they decide. And the thing that baffles me is that they didn't even open it up for a bidding war. There are pretty much everybody in the NBA would start a bidding war to get Luka Doncic on their team. The fact that nobody knew and only the Mavericks contacted the Lakers for this, that's stunning. And that just doesn't happen. So, monumental deal. I don't understand it. I thought it was a joke at first, but apparently not. So the Los Angeles Lakers now have Luka Doncic, and the Mavericks have Anthony Davis in one of the craziest trades probably in sports history. This makes absolutely no sense. All right, now we're going to transition into the NFL. Super Bowl 59 is this upcoming weekend. We got the 15-2 Kansas City Chiefs going up against the 14-3 Philadelphia Eagles. Now, right now, this is based off of ESPN Bet. I'm on there right now. Kansas City is favored by 1.5, and the over-under right now is 49.5. I'm willing to take the over for sure, and I am not taking them I'm not taking a spread. I never take spreads in games because they're too unpredictable. But I'm going to go position by position of who really has the edge in this game. So let's start at head coach. So head coach, you got Andy Reid or Nick Sirianni. Well, Andy Reid is probably the most clever play designers in NFL history and easily one of the best head coaches in NFL history. And we honestly don't know what Nick Sirianni is. He's a loudmouth. He's not really a defensive guy. He's not really an offensive guy. Like, what does he really do? I have no clue. He's the most confusing head coach out of the bunch, literally probably in the entire NFL. And he just wins. I guess, like, he just wins. But for the edge, obviously the first two, the edge go to Kansas City. Head coach and now quarterback. Patrick Mahomes over Jalen Hurts. As much as I like Jalen Hurts, he's not Patrick Mahomes. And as much as I dislike Patrick Mahomes, I can acknowledge his greatness. He's the second best quarterback of all time. If he wins this game, he will not be solidified as the greatest ever. I'm sorry, Tom Brady has 7 rings. That's more than any NFL franchise can claim. So, and this will be Patrick Mahomes' 4th Super Bowl. So he's still got 3 to go and 4 to go to surpass Brady. So I'll wait on that. But as far as head coach and quarterback, the clear advantage goes to Kansas City. Now when you look at the rest of the positions, I think it really leans in the Eagles' favor. So running back, Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt for the Kansas City Chiefs, or Saquon Barkley. As much as I like Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, and they're phenomenal players, they are not even close to what Saquon Barkley is. Not even close. I will take Saquon Barkley over any of those guys any day of the week. Barkley's combination of speed, athleticism, power, strength, literally ball carrier vision, elusiveness, everything, pass catching ability. Barkley is the best all-around running back in the NFL. So I'm going to, that's a clear advantage for Philly. Wide receivers. Okay, you got Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown for Kansas City. Or you get A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Now, Kansas City may have more good wide receivers. People forget that Devontae Smith won the Heisman Trophy at Alabama. People forget that. And he's the number 2 on Philly's team. Devontae Smith would be a number 1 on basically every single other team in the league, not named Cincinnati or Minnesota. Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, or even Dallas with CeeDee Lamb. You can make an argument that on every other team, Devontae Smith, at least 99% of the other teams, would be the number 1 wide receiver. And then you got A.J. Brown. I will take A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in their primes over an old D-Hop, an old Juju, a rookie in Xavier Worthy, and a hit-and-miss player like Hollywood Brown. So, do that with what you will. Clear advantage to me is the Philadelphia Eagles. Tight end, I'm not going to lie, right now, I give the advantage to Philly. Dallas Goedert's a stud. Dallas Goedert's young. Dallas Goedert is very, very consistent. Travis Kelce's old. He's brittle. He's starting to get hurt more. He's not been that effective in the playoffs. A couple plays here and there, but he's nowhere near what he was in those early Super Bowl runs with Kansas City. I'm giving the advantage to Dallas Goedert on the Eagles. He's younger. He's faster. He still catches the ball well. He's a great run blocker. And I still like Travis Kelce, but right now, just because Dallas Goedert's younger and more healthy than Travis Kelce, I'm going to give the advantage to Philly. Offensive line, a clear advantage to Philly. This might be the best offensive line in football. This offensive line reminds me of Zeke and Dak's rookie year with the Dallas Cowboys, where they had Zach Martin in his prime. They had Tyron Smith in his prime. That Dallas offensive line was scary. That Dallas offensive line was amazing, full of Hall of Famers. Now, this Philadelphia Eagles offensive line is similar. They are tremendous pass blockers and tremendous run blockers. The advantage clearly goes to Philadelphia in this. So right now it's a 3-2 advantage for Philly. When you go to defensive line, I honestly believe that's a draw because Chris Jones anchors that Kansas City defensive line, but you also got what is his name? I forget his name. But the Eagles' defensive line is actually scary. Jalen Carter, that's his name. Jalen Carter might be the second coming of Aaron Donald. And he's very, very young. Way younger than Chris Jones. So I might have to split this dead even. And also defensive end, Brandon Graham may be coming back for the Super Bowl. He may be ready to go for the Philadelphia Eagles coming off IR. So that'll be a huge get for Philadelphia. But as far as like linebackers and front seven, I seriously think that the advantage goes to Philly. Like when you look at the rest of it, now I'll give special teams to Kansas City, of course. You got Xavier Worthy being able to run back punts and kicks, and then you got Harrison Butker, probably the best kicker in the NFL, not named Chris Boswell. But when you look at the DBs, like I'd say the DBs for Philly and the linebackers more for Kansas City. Like this is probably the most evenly matched Super Bowl we've seen. Even more so than the first time around in Super Bowl 57 that we had Philadelphia and Kansas City. But I think the advantage leans Philadelphia. With this roster that they have constructed, there is no reason that this can't happen. That Philly cannot win against Kansas City. Now, I predicted Kansas City would win last week. So let's go make that prediction now. Okay, so I think it'll be over the 49.5 point game that is listed on ESPN Bet right now. I get it, but I think this is going to be like one of the best shootout games we've probably ever seen in a Super Bowl. I would love it to be like the Rams and Chiefs from that Monday Night Football game years ago where it was a 55-53 kind of game. I don't think we're quite in for that. But I will say, I have a good feeling about this now. I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles to win 35-30 against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's my final take and final prediction for the Super Bowl. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, they're well equipped to handle Kansas City. And this Philadelphia team, as much as I say they're kind of evenly matched, there is no reason that the Philadelphia Eagles should not bulldoze this Kansas City Chiefs team. There's no reason that Philly shouldn't steamroll them to a Super Bowl championship. Plus, I'm a big fan of Saquon Barkley, so that also helps, that also helps in my picking. But that's what I think. I think Philadelphia 35, Kansas City 30, and I think Philadelphia is going to win Super Bowl 59. All right, now I'm going to give you something new. I'm going to give you my way too early college football playoff 12-team format. I'm going to give you my way too early college football playoff top 12. This is who I think is going to be in it now. It is super, super early, way early. And I'm going to be doing this in the format that we were given, in the format that it's currently set. I guarantee you there will be changes to the format and how it lines up as far as conference champions getting an automatic bye or an automatic bid. I'm sure a lot of those things are going to change. But and this is going to change so drastically over the next couple months until August when college football returns. But I'm giving you my way too early college football top 12 for the college football playoff. So at my number 1 seed, I have Ohio State. I think Ohio State will win the Big Ten, and that's going to be tough. I will say that's going to be tough. You have Chip Kelly, who offensive coordinator, who left to become the Oakland Raiders offensive coordinator. You have the defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles, who left for Penn State. Like, Ryan Day's, I will say Ryan Day's staff is, it's trimmed. And Ohio State's, they captured their national title, but what was it worth? We'll see, who he decides to bring in to replace those, great guys. But, we'll see. But for sake of argument, Ohio State's going to have a talented roster all the way around. Jeremiah Smith will be a front runner for the Heisman Trophy. You got Caleb Downs on the defense, who will probably be in the running for the Thorpe Award next year as the nation's best defensive back. But it all comes back down to quarterback. Who is going to be your quarterback? Now, a lot of players have already transferred out of Ohio State, but I think the quarterback of note is going to be Julian Sagan. I think he was a transfer from Alabama, if I remember correctly, but either way, I think it's Julian Sagan's team now. I think the offense is still going to be good. As long as you got number 4 on the outside, you're going to be fine in the pass game. But as it happened years prior, I mentioned it, Ohio State has always been spoiled with quarterback talent, so it's time to see who the next iteration of the Ohio State, the Ohio State quarterback train, let's see who it's going to be. I think it's going to be Julian Sagan, and I think he's going to do good. But for sake of argument, I have Ohio State getting my number 1 seed. Okay, now number 2, and my champion of the SEC. So that's what I'm basing off the first 4 teams, the first 4 seeds, the top 4 conference championship winners. So at number 2, I have Texas. And this is a simple fact that Arch Manning, it's his time. It is his time now. And I think Arch Manning was way better than Quinn Ewers. I thought Quinn Ewers may have just transferred because he went to the NFL draft, but I don't necessarily know how much he helped his stock this past year. But regardless, you lose a lot of talent. I know Texas is going to lose a lot of talent. But what have I been saying? That quarterback matters significantly more than years past when it comes to competing and winning a national championship. Nobody thought that Will Howard was this good. Well, he was that good for Ohio State this past year. I owe Will Howard an apology because I called him a scrub. I called him a Kyle McCord 2.0, more athletic, more accurate. I owe him an apology because he was fantastic in that playoff. But Texas, I have them at 2, winning the SEC solely because of Arch Manning. Even when he was on the field, he was the best player on the field. Absolutely, he was the best quarterback on Texas roster last year. And honestly, I don't know why they didn't use him more. I felt like Quinn Ewers lost his mojo a little bit. And I think if Arch Manning started against Ohio State, Texas's season may have ended differently. But right now, champion of the SEC, I have Texas. Number 3. This is going to be a shock to a lot of people. Out of the ACC, I have Clemson. Yes, I have Clemson coming back to prominence. They had a down year last year, losing 3 games, still making the ACC title game and winning it. They've clinched the last seed in the playoff, but they got bounced by Texas. But Cade Klubnik is coming back for his junior year. They still have a great offensive line. They still got good skill position players, a phenomenal defense. They just got a defensive end transfer for once. Dabo Swinney's actually using the transfer portal. And they got a defensive end coming in from Alabama. I think Clemson is on the up and up. I said at the beginning of last college football season that Clemson was on the downturn. Well, they very well may be after this year, like after this upcoming college football season. But for right now, sake of argument, I have the Clemson Tigers, as the number 3 seed in the 2025-2026 college football playoff. Now, my 4 seed comes out of the Big 12. BYU. No more Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter at Colorado. No more Cam Scatterbo at Arizona State. BYU was in the running with Iowa State to clinch a playoff spot. And I'm going to take... I will say something about them Mormons. They knew how to play football. That's for sure. They did fantastic things at BYU this past year. But I'm going to take BYU for that 4th seed. Now for the 12th seed, I'm just going to get the 12th seed out of the way for that Group of 5 conference champion, the highest rated one. Well, last year that went to Boise State, but they got the 3rd seed. They got the 3rd overall seed, or the 4th. No, they got the 4th seed based off of their record and situations like that. So, I have the UNLV Running Rebels getting that last college football playoff bid. And I say that because they have been competing for the Mountain West for the better part of 3 years, but they have always run into Boise State. Boise State has always been the thorn in UNLV's side. Now, Ashton Jeanty is no longer at Boise State. Ashton Jeanty is going to the NFL. I have full faith in UNLV to get over the hump of Boise State from the Mountain West and make the college football playoff in 2025. I think they will clinch the 12th seed based off their record and them being the highest rated conference championship, non-group of 4, non-power 4 conference. So we got all the champions we got all the champions and automatic seeds in, and automatic bids and automatic first round buys. So in no particular, I'm not going to go in any particular order, but here's the teams I think that'll round out the remaining 7 teams that are left. The Georgia Bulldogs, even though they had a down year, had an off year, and they got belted by Notre Dame in the quarterfinals. Here's what I say about Georgia. They still have Kirby Smart. They're still great at recruiting. Gunnar Stockton is not a scrub at quarterback. He was just not ready to go up against a team like Notre Dame. Yeah, he did well and led Georgia to an SEC title game win in overtime against Texas, but he was still young. He still wasn't ready for that moment. I think Gunnar Stockton going forward, he's going to be okay. So I have Georgia. They had a down year, but I think they'll bounce back. Georgia makes the playoff. Penn State makes the playoff. Drew Aller's back. Nicholas Singleton is back. A great offensive line. A stout defense, even though Abdul Carter is going to the NFL draft. You have Jim Knowles now as defensive coordinator, who has done phenomenal stuff for the Ohio State defense over the better part of the past 3 years. I think Penn State, they're going to be knocking on the door to win the Big Ten, but they will make the playoff regardless. This is going to be shocking to people. The University of Miami, the Hurricanes, I think they get over the hump this year. Now, is Carson Beck Cam Ward? No. Does Miami still have better receivers than what Georgia provided? Yup. I didn't realize how much was on the wide receiving position at Georgia. A lot of drop passes. So it all comes down to, honestly, the defense has to be better for Miami. I talked about that religiously of how bad it was last year. It's like historically bad for Miami standards. And it matters about the quarterback position. I have no problems with the offensive line or skill positions because Miami finds those willingly, like at will. They can find skill position players. They're fine there. The defense and Carson Beck, that's what it comes down to. Notre Dame will be back in the national spotlight. After losing the national championship, I think Notre Dame bounces back. I think they're going to be competing again for the national title because Marcus Freeman is such a great coach. So I have Notre Dame in. Tennessee. I do have the Volunteers making it again. Nico Iamaleava, quarterback, was super young, was overwhelmed by Ohio State. He has a year under his belt. Now moving forward, how does he grow and evolve as a quarterback? I'm basing it off his projected growth, basically. I think Nico Iamaleava is going to be a top quarterback in college football next year. So I got Tennessee making it in. I have the Florida Gators making it in. Now, most people at the beginning of last year would have said, you're crazy, you're high for saying something like that. Well, no. The way they finished the season last year, nothing short of remarkable. Everybody was calling for Billy Napier's head after losing to Miami in opening week. Well, Florida hit their stride at the end of the year, nearly beating Georgia, nearly beating Tennessee. They were in it. A lot of these games against quality opponents. The only one they really got blown out against was Miami. But that was at the beginning of the year, and Graham Mertz was the starting quarterback. With DJ Lagwag, I think Florida is going to be viable. They will be competing for the SEC. And then the final team of the 7 that I have the Oregon Ducks because I needed a team to round it out, and I was flip-flopping back and forth between a couple teams, but I think Dan Lanning is such a good coach that he'll have Oregon primed and ready to, make another run in the Big Ten. I don't think they'll win the Big Ten because Ohio State and Penn State are way better than Oregon, in my opinion, at this moment in time, but I can see Oregon going on a little run and making it into one of those final spots. So that's who I have in my college football playoff for the 2025-2026 season. Way too early. So that's way too early. We don't even know who else is going to transfer, what other additions teams are going to make, and what other players are going to leave for the portal. But I have Ohio State, Texas, Clemson, BYU, and UNLV as my 5 conference champions, clinching 5 spots, 4 byes, and the last spot in the college football playoff. And I have Georgia, Penn State, Miami, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Florida, and Oregon rounding out the rest of the college football playoff. And that's going to wrap it up this week on The Lake Show, everyone. I really appreciate you all making me a part of your day again. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends, leave some comments down below. I'm your host, Dominic Lako. God bless.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want, and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up!